They messed with the wrong person. My boss kept stealing my lunch, so I gave him a trip to the ICU and a lesson in biology. Imagine working for a middle manager who thinks your salary includes subsidizing his lunch. Meet Greg. Greg earns double what I do, yet he treats the office fridge like his personal all-you-can-eat buffet. My homemade lasagna, gone. My turkey club, vanished. I tried the passive-aggressive note route. Greg responded by leaving a dirty napkin that said, "Needs more salt." Oh, Greg, you have no idea what's coming for you next. That was the moment I stopped being the nice guy and started being a scientist. I decided that if Greg wanted gourmet, I'd give him a meal he'd remember for the rest of his medical history. I didn't go for poison that's illegal and boring. I went for extreme negligence. I prepared a beautiful chicken salad. But first, I left the chicken on my porch for 6 hours in the July heat before mixing it in. Can you smell the justice yet? To make it a real masterpiece, I added a heavy dose of a very specific, high-end sugar-free sweetener. For those who don't know, this stuff is famous for its aggressive laxative effects. It looked like a 5-star meal, but it was essentially a ticking biological time bomb. I masked the scent with heavy garlic and smoked paprika. It looked delicious. It looked inviting. It was a masterpiece of deception. And Greg was the only target. 12:15 p.m. I'm at my desk when I hear the heavy tread of the beast heading to the break room. My heart is pounding. 5 minutes later, the munching sounds stop. Silence. Then, a groan that sounded like a tectonic plate shifting. Greg didn't just eat a bite. He polished off the whole container. He even licked the fork. I checked my watch. In 30 minutes, Greg's internal organs were going to declare war on his dignity. It started with the sweat. Greg walked past my desk looking like he'd just finished a marathon in a sauna. He was pale, vibrating, and clutching his stomach like he was holding back a demon from the 7th circle of hell. He made a desperate run for the executive restroom, but there was a cleaning sign in front of it. The panic in his eyes when he realized the nearest open toilet was 2 floors down. It was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. He didn't make it. The sounds coming from the stairwell were legendary. Let's just say Greg had to go home in a pair of borrowed maintenance overalls, and he was out sick for a whole week. He tried to blame the office, but since he stole the food, he couldn't report it without admitting to HR that he's a thief. Now, Greg doesn't even touch the handle of the office fridge. He keeps his lunch locked in his car like a traumatized squirrel. My neighbor was siphoning my gas, so I fed his truck a cocktail that killed it. Living next to Dave is like living next to a human parasite. Dave drives a lifted truck he clearly can't afford to fill up, and I noticed my tank was dropping suspiciously fast every single night. I set up a hidden camera and bingo, there's Dave at a M, hose in hand, draining my SUV like it's his personal gas station. I could have called the cops, but watching a tow truck take his pride and joy away felt much more satisfying. I waited until my tank was nearly empty. Then, I went to the store and bought 5 gallons of gas and 10 pounds of high-grade sugar. Old myth. No, sugar doesn't melt. It turns into a grainy sludge that wrecks fuel injectors. But I wanted more. I added a gallon of water-based blue dye and a bottle of transmission fluid. I poured this forbidden juice into a jerry can and left it in the back of my SUV, unlocked and tempting. That night, the camera showed Dave looking like he'd hit the jackpot. He didn't even siphon from my tank this time. He just grabbed the whole can and emptied it straight into his truck. He even did a little victory dance in the driveway. Can you believe the nerve of this guy? He thought he was getting a free ride. He was actually signing his truck's death warrant. I went to bed that night with the biggest smile on my face. The next morning, I'm drinking coffee on my porch when Dave tries to start his engine. Cough, sputter, clunk. The sound of a $60,000 engine dying is surprisingly melodic. Huge clouds of thick blue smoke started pouring out of his exhaust, coating his entire driveway in a Smurf-colored mist. Dave was screaming, kicking his tires, and looking at the blue puddle forming under his tailpipe in absolute horror. The mechanic told him the entire fuel system was contaminated with an unknown blue crystalline substance and the repair bill was $9,000. Dave tried to ask if I'd seen anyone messing with his truck. I just looked at him and said, "Karma is a weird thing, Dave. Maybe your truck just developed a sugar addiction?" He had to sell the truck for parts. Now he rides a bicycle to work. I've never seen a man look more miserable in spandex. My roommate refused to use headphones, so I convinced him he was haunted. My roommate, Kyle, is the human equivalent of a headache. He believes that the entire apartment building should enjoy his hardstyle techno at a.m. I'm a software engineer. I need my REM sleep to function. Every time I asked him to keep it down, he'd just smirk and say, "Get over it, bro. It's just vibes. Don't be a buzzkill." Fine. If Kyle wanted vibes, I decided to give him a paranormal experience that would haunt his dreams. Kyle isn't exactly a tech genius. He leaves his Bluetooth, his Wi-Fi, and even his PC's remote desktop wide open without a single password. It was like he was inviting me to destroy him. I didn't want to just cut his power. That's too simple. I wanted him to question his own sanity. I wrote a custom Python script that would trigger at random intervals between a.m. and a.m. It was designed to be subtle, creepy, and impossible to ignore. The script didn't play music. It played the sound of a heavy marble rolling across a wooden floor, followed by a faint, grainy recording of a whispering child's voice saying, "Kyle, why are you still awake? Why are you watching us, Kyle?" I hid a small, high-quality Bluetooth speaker deep behind his drywall through a tiny air vent. Night 1, I hear Kyle stop his music abruptly. Silence. Then the marble sound plays. Kyle shouts, "Yo, stop it." I stayed in my room, clutching my pillow to keep from laughing out loud while pretending to snore like a chainsaw. 10 minutes later, I triggered the next sound. "It's so cold in here, Kyle. Why did you lock the door?" I heard him literally jump out of bed so fast he hit his head on the ceiling fan. He was pacing the hallway with a flashlight, breathing like a panicked animal. He looked through the peephole, but of course, there was nobody there. Over the next week, I turned the heat up. I programmed his smart bulbs to flicker only when his music went above a certain decibel. I used his remote desktop to randomly open Wikipedia pages for unsolved Victorian murders and how to tell if your house is built on a cemetery. Kyle stopped eating. He started carrying a bottle of holy water he bought from a sketchy guy on Craigslist. He was officially losing his grip on reality. The breaking point was the grand finale. I used a directional ultrasonic speaker to play the sound of a scratching fingernail inside his actual pillowcase. He screamed so loud I thought the neighbors would call the SWAT team. He packed his bags at a.m., sobbing that the energy of the apartment was toxic and demonic. He even left his $2,000 gaming chair because he thought it was cursed. Now I have a quiet home and a new chair. She stole my design, so I sent her a congratulations gift that ruined her career. Sarah is the kind of corporate snake who smiles at you while she's measuring your back for a knife. I spent 3 months on a 50-page marketing deck that was supposed to be my ticket to a partnership. Sarah, my trusted colleague, stole the file from the shared drive, swapped the logos, and presented it to the board of directors as her own masterpiece. She got the senior partner spot and a massive corner office. I got nothing. The board told me I should be more like Sarah and take more initiative. I didn't quit. I didn't complain to HR because Sarah was already dating the HR director's son. I just smiled, congratulated her, and waited for her big inauguration party. I knew exactly what Sarah loved, expensive things and showing off. So, I decided to send her a promotion gift that would be the highlight of her career. And the end of it. I didn't send a cheap prank box. I went to a specialty industrial shop and bought micro glitter. This stuff is so fine it behaves like a liquid and uses static electricity to cling to every surface it touches. I also bought a high-powered, spring-loaded explosion box disguised as a luxury $500 champagne kit. I didn't just fill it with glitter. I mixed in a fart spray concentrate that smells like a dumpster in a swamp during a heat wave. I had the package delivered to her brand new, white-carpeted office right in the middle of a high-stakes meeting with the CEO and the primary investors. Through the glass wall, I watched her face light up with ego. "Oh look, someone sent a gift for the new partner," she chirped, looking at the CEO for approval. He leaned in, curious to see the champagne. She pulled the silk ribbon. And then, the world turned into a shimmering nightmare. The explosion was so violent it looked like a disco ball had committed suicide in her face. A massive cloud of shimmering pink dust and the concentrated scent of 1,000 rotting eggs filled the room instantly. Sarah was covered head to toe. The CEO's $4,000 suit was ruined. The investors were coughing and gagging. But the best part, the micro glitter got sucked into the HVAC system, meaning the entire floor now smelled like a swampy glitter factory. The cleaning bill was $15,000 because they had to replace the entire ventilation system and the custom white carpets. The CEO was so furious about his ruined meeting and the smell of failure that he ordered a full internal audit. They found the original timestamps on my marketing files. Sarah wasn't just fired. She's now legally barred from the industry. 3 months later, she's still finding pink glitter in her hair during job interviews. My ex-fiancée cheated and tried to keep the ring, so I ruined her big day. 6 months ago, my life was perfect, or so I thought. I caught my fiancée, Tiffany, having a private session with her personal trainer on our own living room couch. When I confronted her, she didn't even have the decency to cry. She just said, "Well, the wedding is already paid for, and I'm keeping the 2-carat ring as a stress tax." She actually sent me an invitation to her wedding with the trainer. She thought I was too weak to fight back. Tiffany's dream was a pure white winter wedding in an elite cathedral. She spent $80,000 of her parents' money to make sure everything was Instagram perfect. She forgot one tiny detail. I'm the head of logistics for the city's largest event planning firm. I know every vendor, every florist, and every security guard in the business. I didn't cancel the wedding that would be too kind. I wanted her to have the wedding she truly deserved. Tiffany wanted purity, so I made a few anonymous donations to the local animal shelter in her name. I arranged for a massive puppy and kitten adoption day to happen on the sidewalk right in front of the church doors, exactly when she arrived in her limo. As she stepped out in her $10,000 silk dress, a dozen muddy, excited golden retriever puppies rushed her. Her pure white dress was covered in brown paw prints before she even hit the altar. But that was just the appetizer. For the main course, I contacted the DJ. I told him I was the brother of the bride and that we had a surprise tribute video for the reception. I gave him a flash drive and a $200 tip. Tiffany thought she was going to watch a romantic montage. Instead, when the lights went down, the giant 20-foot screen showed the crystal clear 4,000 footage of her cheating on me, captured by our home security cameras. The silence in that ballroom was so loud it was deafening. Tiffany stood there, shivering in her muddy dress, as her entire family and her new husband's family watched her secret life play out in front of 200 guests. Her father stood up and walked out without saying a word. The groom looked like he wanted to crawl into a hole and die. But I wasn't finished. I had also swapped the premium bar stock with non-alcoholic cider and flat, warm beer. Tiffany tried to sue me for intentional infliction of emotional distress, but my lawyers pointed out that I simply shared truthful digital memories. The groom filed for an annulment the very next morning. Tiffany lost her job, her reputation, and her dream life in under 4 hours. She ended up having to sell that 2-carat ring just to pay for the wedding of the century that became the biggest joke in the city. Justice is a dish best served in 4,000. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more.